press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss another update.
In the last class, we are learning about the rulers and the buildings. Especially, we are learning about that the buildings, the building temples, mosques and tanks. We are learning about these points in the last class. I already explained some points here, isn't it? So, I already told the Muslim sultans and padishahs. The Muslim sultans and the padishahs did not climb. They are the incarnation of the God. Here, the Muslim sultans are the padishahs. They did not climb. They are the incarnation of the God. Incarnation means avatara. ಅವರು ದೇವರ ಅವತಾರ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು they did not climb. But the Persians climb like this. They are the incarnation of the God. So here they also described, they are the shadow of the God. Who are described as the shadow of that God? The Persian sultans, especially the Persian sultans. Persian kings are the Persian sultans. They describe the Persian sultans are the Persian kings. They claim that they are the incarnation of the God. So, and also they described they are the shadow of the God. They are the shadow of the God. Who are the shadow of the God here? The Persian kings. Persian kings are the Persian sultans. They claimed that they are the incarnation of the God, and also they told themselves they are the shadow of the God. So I will give an example for that. Okay, here there is an inscription. The inscription is in Quwwat-ul-Islam Mosque. There is a inscription. There is one of the document we found in Quwwat-ul-Islam Mosque. Okay, in that mosque they explained, there is a inscription, there is a document in Quwwat-ul-Islam Mosque. So what was written on that document? In that inscription they wrote, the God chose Alauddin as a king. Who chose the Alauddin as a king here? The God chose the Alauddin as a king because he had the qualities of Moses and Solomon. Who have the qualities of Moses and Solomon here? The Alauddin. Alauddin was chosen by the God. He was chosen as a king by the God. Okay, why did the God choose the Alauddin as the king here? Because he has the qualities. He has the qualities of the Moses and Solomon. For that purpose, the God chose the Alauddin as a king. Okay, who were these Solomon and the Moses? These Moses and Solomon were the great lawgivers. Okay, these are these two members were the lawgivers, great lawgivers. So the same qualities of Moses and Solomon, the Alauddin also has the same qualities of the Solomon and Moses. For that purpose, God chose the Alauddin as the king. It means here the Persian sultans, they are claiming they are the incarnation of the God. Okay, so but the great lawgiver was the God, isn't it? The great lawgiver. There is no another choice except the God. The God is the greatest lawgiver, and also he was one of the greatest architect. He was one of the great architects. The God himself, isn't it? He created the world. He means the God. The God created this world out of the choice, and also introduced order and symmetry or harmony here, isn't it? So in this way, the Muslim sultans, they did not claim they are the incarnation of the God, but the Persian kings, they claim they are the incarnation of the God here. Okay, when the new dynasty came to power, when the new dynasty came to the power, kings wanted to emphasize their moral right here. When the new dynasty came into force, came into existence, and that time the kings emphasized their moral right. So, what type of moral right they emphasize on that time? They emphasize their moral right to be the rulers. How they emphasize their moral right here? By constructing the places of worship, by constructing, by build the places of worship, provided rulers with the chance to proclaim that place. When they start to construct these worship places, so this place gave a chance to proclaim their close relationship with the God. Okay, especially important in the age of rapid political changes. The rulers, not only they built the worship places, and also not only they built they did not build the buildings, buildings or temples here. They also patronage the some of the poets, learned persons, peers here. And also they try to transfer their capitals. They also try to transfer their capitals and cities into great cultural cities that brought, when they try to transfer their capital cities into great cultural centers, that brought fame. Fame to whom? Fame to that person, that kings. That brought fame to that king, and also their realm. For that purpose, many kings, they built their temples, mosques all over their kingdom. And also they try to patronize, the learned and pious persons here. But later, later there was a great demand for precious water. Understood situation? Later means in that time, when they are building the mosques, temples, when they are patronizing the poets and others, then there was a great demand for the precious water. Precious water means good water, drinking water. Okay, sweet water. So then the king started to build. Then on that time, when there was a great demand for the precious water, good water, okay, sweet water, then the kings, the rulers start to build. They start to build the tanks and reservoirs. They start to build tanks and reservoirs. Many kings start to build tanks and reservoirs with the temples, mosques. Okay, so this task was also prized by the people when the kings start to build the tanks and the reservoirs. So people start to prize those kings who built the tanks and reservoirs here. Okay, among them the Sultan Iltamash. He constructed the one of the large reservoir. Here the Sultan Iltamash constructed Sultan Iltamash constructed the one of the reservoir here. He constructed the one of the important reservoir here. He constructed these large reservoir outside of Dilha-i-Kunha. He constructed this large reservoir outside of the Dilha-i-Kunha mosque. Dilha-i-Kunha This is the mosque. Dilai-i-Kunha is the mosque. Dilai-i-Kunha was one of the important mosque. So outside of this mosque, he means the Iltamash. The ruler Iltamash built a large reservoir. This is called as Hauz-i-Sultani. This reservoir, that reservoir is called as Hauz-i-Sultani. This reservoir is given the name Hauz-i-Sultani. 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 What do you mean by Hauz-i-Sultani? Hauz-i-Sultani means the king's reservoir. The Hauz-i-Sultani means king's reservoir. King's reservoir. That's a situation when there was a great demand for the precious water. When there was a great demand for the sweet water or the fresh water, then the rulers or the kings start to build many tanks and reservoirs here, okay, all over their kingdom. Okay, on that time the Sultan Iltamash built a large reservoir. The Sultan Iltamash built a large reservoir. Okay, where he built this large reservoir? Outside of the Dilhai-i-Kunha. Dilhai-i-Kunha was one of the important mosque. So outside of this, besides this mosque, he built a large reservoir. It was given the name Hauz-i-Sultani. Hauz-i-Sultani means it is a large reservoir built by Iltamash. It is outside of the Dilhai-i-Kunha mosque. Okay, what do you mean by Hauz-i-Sultani? Hauz-i-Sultani means king's reservoir. So this situation prized the Iltamash. Okay, this task, the task to building or construction of the reservoir, it bring the great prize to the peoples prized the Iltamash because there was a great demand for the water, precious water. Okay, later after him, later the many kings and rulers, they were also built large, small tanks, reservoirs here. Sometimes they built these tanks, reservoirs for the uses of the common people. Okay, sometimes these reservoirs and tanks also become the part of the these reservoirs or tanks. Sometimes these reservoirs and mosques were also become the part of the temples, mosques, gurudwaras, etc. Okay, even though it is very helpful, it become very helpful to the people. Okay, in this way the many kings, rulers, they built many tanks and reservoirs for the uses of the common people. Next we learn about when one king attacked on the another king. When one king attacked on the another king, then they targeted the temples. Understand the situation? When one king attacked on the another king, he targeted their temples. Why? For what purpose they targeted the temples? Let us learn about that. Okay, why were temples targeted? Next we learn about why were temples targeted? Temples targeted. Why were temples targeted? When one king attacked on the another king, So on that time they targeted the temples. They loot the temples. Why? For what purpose? So for what purpose the kings built the temples? Because the kings built the temples to demonstrate, to explain their devotion to God. Why did the kings or rulers build the temples? Because the kings built the temples, mosques. For what purpose? To demonstrate, to explain their devotion to God. And here these temples, not only they built these temples to demonstrate their devotion to God, and also these temples were also demonstrate their power and wealth. These temples were also explains their power, how powerful they are, and also they demonstrate their wealth. These temples, they demonstrate their power, and also these temples, they demonstrate their wealth. Okay, these temples not only demonstrate the devotions of the God. These temples not only demonstrate their devotion to the God, and also these temples demonstrate or explains the power and wealth of that person. As a result, the other kings knows the wealth were in that temples, in the important temples. For that purpose, when one king attacked on another king, when he was defeated the other kings, they targeted especially the temples. Okay, I will give an example for that. From the beginning of the 9th century, here one of the ruler, beginning of the 9th century, here one of the Pandyan king, his name was Srimara Srivallabha. During the period of beginning of the 9th century, the Pandyan king, Srimara Srivallabha. He attacked on the king Sri Lanka. His name was Sena first. Okay, he attacked or he invaded on the Sri Lanka. Srimara Srivallabha was the king of the Pandyan. He attacked on the Sri Lanka. On that time, who was the king of Sri Lanka? On that time, the Sena first was the king of the Sri Lanka. Sena first was the ruler, the king of the Sri Lanka. Srimara Srivallabha attacked on Sena first. Not only he fought with Sena first, he also defeated. Srimara Srivallabha defeated the Sena first. On that time, this event, how Srimara Srivallabha looted on that time, how he looted the wealth, how he bring the statues from the Sri Lanka, it was noted. So here one of the chronicler and also one of the Buddhist monk, he explained here. His name was Dhammakitty, the Buddhist monk. The chronicler means the historian, the Dhammakitty noted this situation, noted this event. He explained. His name was Dhammakitty. Who was Dhammakitty? Dhammakitty was Dhammakirti was one of the Buddhist monk. Dhammakirti was one of the Buddhist monk, and also he was a chronicler. He was a chronicler. Okay, he pointed this situation, this event in his book. Okay, here he noted that he described how he looted the buildings, how he looted the statues and all. Here he explained that Dhammakirti was noted, and Dhammakirti explained that he removed all the valuables. He means Srimara Srivallabha. Srimara Srivallabha, when attacked on Sena first, when he defeated the Sena first, then the Srimara Srivallabha removed all the valuables. Which were those? The statue of Buddha. The statue of Buddha, which was in Sri Lanka. Okay, he removed all the valuables. The statue of the Buddha made entirely of gold. Here in Sri Lanka there was a statue of Buddha. That Buddha statue was made by gold. Okay, he removed all the valuables, especially the statue of Buddha, which was made by gold. Okay, where is it? It is in Jewel Palace. The Buddha statue was at Jewel Palace. Okay, he bring that statue of Buddha. Not only he bring the statue of Buddha, and also he bring the golden images in various monasteries. Golden images in various monasteries. These were all seized by the Srimara Srivallabha. Seized, and he bring his kingdom. Okay, in this way Dhammakirti noted this event in his book, and also he praised the Srimara Srivallabha. Later, after the Sena first, the another king came to the throne. His name was Sena second. Okay, when the Sena second became the king, so when he heard all these things, it enraged the Sena second. On that time, Sena second decided to bring that statue, the golden Buddha statue. Again, they should bring that statue from the Pandyan king, and also he wants to restore that statue in his jewel palace. For that purpose, Sena second ordered his general. For that purpose, Sena second, when the Sena second became the king, at that time he ordered his general invade on Madurai. To invade on Madurai. Who were in the Madurai? Madurai, Srimara Srivallabha were ruling. He was the Pandyan rule. His capital city was Madurai. Okay, he bring that statue in the Madurai. Okay, now the statue of Buddha was in the Madurai. For that purpose, Sena second to restore that Buddha statue, he ordered. He means the Sena second ordered his general to invade on Madurai. Okay, and also they invade on Madurai. Madurai is the capital of Pandyans, and also the Buddhist monk. This is also noted this point also. He noted this point also. How the Sena second invaded on the Madurai, how he made the expedition to, how he put the effort to search that statue, the statue of Buddha. Okay, later how he restore that golden statue of Buddha in the Jewel Palace. These were all noted. Okay, in this way, these temples were also become the in these temples we can observe the more and more wealth. For that purpose, the one king, when they attacked on the another king, when they were defeated, they targeted these temples for the wealth. Okay, so next in the 11th century. In the 11th century was also one of the event was held in the same. Let us learn about that. Okay, the 11th century, 11th century, the Chola king Rajendra. In the 11th century. This was held in 9th century. Later in 11th century. 11th century, what happened, you know? The Chola king Rajendra. Chola king Rajendra, he built one of the Shiva temple. Chola king Rajendra. He built Shiva temple. Especially he built the Shiva temple in his kingdom. During the 11th century, Chola king Rajendra built Shiva temple in his kingdom. So, when he built the Shiva temple in his capital, he filled his temple with the prized statues. He filled his temple with the seized statues. When he was attacked on defeated the other kings. This Shiva temple was filled by the important statues which were when he was attacked on the other kings, when the other kings were defeated. So there were the many important statues. To bring that statues from that place, he filled that statues in his temples. Understood situation? So those temples were those statues were, especially he bring the statue of the sun pedestal. He bring the sun pedestal statue. Sun pedestal statue. It is also one of the important statue. Where is it? On that time it is in Chalukya's kingdom. Okay. He bring the sun pedestal statue from the Chalukyas. The Rajendra first bring the sun pedestal statue from the Chalukyas. Not only he bring the sun pedestal statue, and also he bring many statues on that time. Those are the Ganesha statue and several statues of Durga. Ganesha and Durga statues. Several Durga statues he brought from the Ganesha statue and many Durga statues. Several statues of Durga and Nandi statue, and also the Nandi statue. These statues were all he brought from the eastern Chalukyas. He brought from eastern Chalukyas. Okay. And next he bring the image of Bhairava and Bhairavi, and also he bring an image of Bhairava and Bhairavi. Bhairava and Bhairavi. These images were also brought by Rajendra. Okay, he brought these images from the Kalingas of Orissa. He brought these Bhairava and Bhairavi statues from the Kalingas in Orissa. Kalinga from Orissa. From Orissa. In this way, he brought many, and also he brought Kali statue. He also brought Kali statue. He also brought Kali statue from the Palas of Bengal. in this way, etc. In this way, Chola king Rajendra built the Shiva temple. In that temple, he filled the important images or the important statues which were very famous in other kingdoms. When he fought against those peoples, when they were defeated, on that time he brought many statues and images from the other kingdoms. Among them the important, he brought me so many statues. Among them some of the importance were, one is the sun pedestal statue. He brought this sun pedestal statue from the Chalukyas, and also he brought Ganesha and varieties of Durga images, and also he brought the Nandi statue. He also brought the Nandi statue from the eastern Chalukyas. Okay, and also he brought the Bhairava and Bhairavi statues from the Kalinga from Orissa, and also he brought Kali statue. From the palace of Bengal. In this way, he brought many statues, many important famous statues, and also he filled Shiva temples with these statues. Okay. Next, the contemporary of the Rajendra, the another king was there. His name was Sultan Muhammad Ghazni. What he did, let us learn about that. Okay, Ghazni Muhammad, the one of the king Ghazni Muhammad, he was the contemporary of Rajendra first. He was a contemporary. Contemporary means at the same time. He was also ruling. When Rajendra was ruling, at the same time the Muhammad Ghazni, the Sultan of Muhammad Ghazni, was also ruling. What he did on that time, let us learn about that. Okay, Muhammad Ghazni. Muhammad Ghazni was the contemporary ruler. He was a contemporary ruler of Rajendra first. He invaded on subcontinent, means he invaded on India. So on that time he attacked on many kingdoms. So on that time he looted the many temples. He destroyed many temples here. Especially he destroyed the one of the important temple that is called as Somanatha. Somanatha temple was very famous. Somnath temple was very famous temple during that period. During his period, he attacked on Somanatha and he fully destroyed this Somanatha temple. Okay, so he was not a good or important ruler on that time. He was not a important ruler. On that time. Even though he was not an important ruler, he attacked on many kingdoms in subcontinent. Not only he attacked on the rulers, he defeated many rulers. Here, when he defeated many rulers, they attacked, means he targeted the temples for the wealth. Okay, on that time he destroyed many statues, many temples. Okay, on that time the Somanatha temple was very famous temple. He was destroyed, fully destroyed by the Ghazni Muhammad. So by destroying these temples, he wants to become a hero of Islam. He wants to take the prize. He tried to win the credit. He tried to take the credit of a great hero in Islam or Muslim religion, Islam religion. For that purpose, he destroyed the many statues, many temples on that time. He targeted the many temples. He looted the temples and he destroyed the many temples, statues here. Among them, one of the important temples which was destroyed by the Ghazni Muhammad, that is the Somanatha temples. Okay, in the political culture of Middle Ages, most rulers in the political culture of Middle Ages, the most rulers displayed their political might and military. they displayed their political might and military success by attacking and looting the places of worship, and they defeated rulers. In this way, he tried to bring more and more statues, and also they looted the many temples here. Next, we learn about gardens, tombs and forts. Who built these gardens, tombs and forts? How he built? Let us learn about that. Okay. Next, garden, tombs and forts. Garden. Next, we learn about who built the gardens, tombs and forts. Who built the gardens and tombs and forts, when and how? Let us learn about that. Okay. So, under the Mughals, the architecture become complex during the period of the Mughals. During the period of Mughals, the architecture become complex, difficult. Okay. There, the many Mughal rulers gave more importance to build all these things. Means the gardens, tombs and forts here. Especially the Shah Jahan, Babar, Humayun, Akbar, Jahangir and Shah Jahan during their period. Especially Babar, Humayun, Akbar, Jahangir and Shah Jahan. They are personally interested. Interested in the art and architecture, literature, art and architecture. The Mughal rulers, especially, they were very interested. They were personally interested in literature, art and architecture. As a result, many forts, many tombs, many gardens were built during their period. Let us learn about that. Okay. So, I already told the Babar was the first ruler of Mughal, isn't it? He wrote his own autobiography, that is called as Babar Nama. Babar wrote his own autobiography, Atma Charitre. Okay, that is called as Babar Nama. In his book, in his autobiography, he explained he was very interested in planning and laying the garden. Who explained? He was very interested in playing and laying the garden, especially the Babar. The Babar was the first king of Mughal. Babar was the first king of the Mughal. In his autobiography, that's name is Babar Nama. Okay, in that book he wrote he was very interested in laying and planning a formal garden. He was very interested in laying and planning the formal gardens. The shape of the garden is, it must be a rectangular shape. Rectangular shape. Okay. Here he was very interested in laying out the formal garden. The shape of the garden must be a rectangular. Okay. So this rectangular garden enclosed. It was enclosed by the wall. Enclosed by the walls. Here this garden was enclosed by the walls, and also these gardens divided into 4 quarters. These gardens divided into 4 quarters. 4 quarters. This is the 1 quarter, 2, 3, 4. This garden, the garden must be a rectangular shape. This is surrounded by the walls. Okay, and also this garden must be divided into 4 quarters. Okay, it was not divided by the walls or others. Okay, these gardens were divided into 4 quarters by artificial channels. Okay, by artificial channel, this garden was divided into 4 quarters. So such type of gardens were called as Chahar Bagh. This type of garden was called as Chahar Bagh. Chahar Bagh. Understood the situation? Chahar Bagh. What do you mean by Chahar Bagh? It is also known as 4 garden. 4 gardens. 4 gardens. 4 gardens means Chahar Bagh. Chahar Bagh means 4 gardens. What do you mean by Chahar Baghs or 4 gardens? 4 gardens are Chahar Bagh means here the Humayun, the Babar was very interested in laying and planning the garden. Okay, according to his wish, the garden must be a rectangular shape. The garden must be a rectangular shape. The whole garden surrounded by the walls. Okay, we should build all surrounded by these gardens surrounded by the walls. Okay, and also this garden, this bog was divided into 4 quarters. 4 quarters by the artificial channels. So such type of gardens he built. So these gardens were known as Chahar Bagh, or the 4 gardens. Okay, because why it was called as Chahar Bagh or the 4 gardens? Because of their symmetrical division into quarters. Because of their symmetrical divisions into quarters, so this garden was known as Chahar Bagh or the 4 gardens. Okay, such type of gardens, he wants to build such type of gardens. Later the Akbar, Jahangir and Shah Jahan built such type of Chahar Bagh especially in Agra and Delhi. This was the planning of the Babar. Okay, this was the dream of the Babar. But later Akbar, Shah Jahan and Jahangir. Akbar, Shah Jahan and Jahangir built such type of Chahar Bagh especially in Agra and Delhi. Okay, so later during the period of Akbar, there were several important architectural innovations were held. During the period of Akbar, there were several important architectural innovations were held. So the Mughal architects inspired by the Central Asian architecture. This is the situation later during the period of Akbar. The several important architectural innovations were held during the period of Akbar. Means the Akbar architects, the Mughal architects, they were inspired by the architecture of the Central Asia. I already told the Central Asian ancestor, the Central Asian Timur was the ancestor of the Mughals. In the last chapter I already explained, isn't it? So they have the link, the Akbar kingdom and also the Central Asian kingdom have the link here. So as a result, the Akbar's architects, they are inspired by the architecture of the Central Asia. Okay, as a result, they adopted that architectures in their buildings. Okay, especially on that time, the central towering dome, and tall gateway. The central towering dome the central towering dome and tall gateway. When the Akbar's architect inspired the architecture of the Central Asia, on that time what happened, some important points they adopted here. Later what happened, the central towering dome and the tall gateway is also called as Pishak. Tall gateway is also called as Pishak. These become important aspects. These two becomes an important aspect of the Mughal architecture. These two important things become the important architectures during the period of the Mughals. Those were central towering dome and the tall gateway. Okay, here such type of architecture we observe in the first, we can visible in Humayun's tomb. We can observe such type of architecture in Humayun's tomb. First we observe in the Humayun's tomb. Where is it, Humayun tombs? The tomb was placed in the center of the huge formal Chahar Bagh. Such the Humayun's tomb, Samadhi. Humayun's tomb was placed. It was built. The Humayun's tomb was built in the center of the huge formal Chahar Bagh. I already explained no Chahar Bagh. So in that Chahar Bagh, in the middle of the Chahar Bagh, there was constructed the Humayun's tomb. So and they also built in the traditions. It is known as 8 paradises. Understood situation? The tomb, the Humayun tomb was placed in the center of the huge formal Chahar Bagh. In the center of the formal Chahar Bagh, they built in the tradition way. Using the tradition architecture, they built the Humayun tomb at the center of the huge formal Chahar Bagh. This is known as 8 paradises. This is known as 8 paradises. 8 paradises. Why it is called as 8 paradises? Why it is called 8 paradises? And also it is known as Hasht Behist. And also it is called as Hasht Behist. It is also known as Hasht Behist. Hasht Behist means 8 paradises. Why it is called as Hasht Behist or the 8 paradises? Means here the central hall which have the Humayun's tomb, the central hall which have the Humayun tomb, it is surrounded by the 8 rooms. The Humayun tomb surrounded by the 8 rooms. For that purpose, that is called as 8 paradises or the Hasht Behist. Okay, the central hall was surrounded by the 8 rooms. The building was constructed. This whole building was constructed by the sandstone. They used sandstone to construct these buildings, and also the edge of this building. The edge, they used the white marbles. The whole building was built by the sandstone. They used to build that building a sandstone, but in the edge of the building they used the white marbles. In this way the Humayun tomb was built. So that tomb was known as Hasht Behist or the 8 paradises. Okay, I already told why it is called as Hasht Behist, because it was surrounded. Humayun tomb was surrounded by the 8 rooms. As a result, it is known as 8 paradises or Hasht Behist. Okay, we shall stop here. We shall continue the next bit. Okay, thank you.